seems complicated, but it really is not complicated. I just have a hot mess here. And when you're wiring, it really, I mean, there's so many wires that you've got to contend to. It does get confusing. What's going on, guys? We're going to do some more wiring today. Last week's video, I showed you guys how I pull the wires in the vans to get the wire over to my switches, and from the switches to power the lights and other components. So in today's video, we're going to break it down step by step on how I do it, the lights, the switches, the toggle switches, and I'm going to break this down step by step. We're going to start by, I've got my fuse block here, and I always put these towards the back of the van, easy to access, and this is going to give power from the power bank. Power is going to come into this fuse block, and then from here, it's going to be protected by fuses, and then it's going to go to my components. These wires I call the load. So it's taking power from the fuse block to the component as soon as you put that fuse in. So we're going to make a wire that's going to be our load. We're going to do that first. And I'm just going to take a little piece of my wire. It does not have to be long for this project. In your van or your project, it'll go all the way to where you want your switch or your ball valve or whatever you're wiring. So I'm just going to cut a little piece of wire here, and I'm going to strip this insulated coating off of there with my wire strippers. And when I hook mine up to the fuse block, I take a little bit of extra of this sheath off so that when you connect the wire to the block, you've got some room there. So I will take another little end off of there. And since this wire is going to be our load, I'm going to go ahead and take the sheath off of this end as well, so that I can put my clips on there that are gonna that I'm gonna wire my switches to. So right now, all I've done is, you can see this side is longer because I want to be able to get that around my fuse block where I want it. And then the other end is short. That's just going to power my switches. So now I'm going to take a little bit of this coating off of the negative wire and the positive wire. And I'm going to connect some of my ring connectors to this wire. So I will grab those, put that on there. And you're going to take your crimping tool and you're going to crimp this wire securely on there. All right, so now that I've got them both on there and both of them crimped, I'm going to go ahead and put some heat shrink on these so I can show you guys how to do it. And I find it hard to get the perfect size. So if you're using 12 gauge or 14 gauge wire, I find that the 5/16, I get it in a roll because I use a lot of it here, but I find the 5/16 works for both the blue connectors and the yellow connectors. And another point, the blue connectors go on 14 gauge wire, and then these yellow connectors go on 12 gauge wire. So if you're not sure which color to use, if you've got 14 gauge wire, use the blue. If you've got 12 gauge wire, use the yellow. So slide your sheath over your wire, and you do not want your heat shrink material to be over your ring connector there, because when this gets screwed to your fuse block, you don't want the black heat shrink material underneath that screw. You want a solid metal to metal connection. So make sure that this is not in the way of your ring connector, and heat shrink that down, okay? And if you don't have a heat gun, you can use a lighter And you can see that really secures that on there. I actually cut them a little long. Now on this one, I have a lighter right here. Let's go ahead and try a lighter. The lighter will take just a little bit longer, but you'll be able to tell you don't have a heat shrink on. It'll really do the same thing. And this is just my fire starting lighter. Nothing special. Just getting a little heat on that. We're going to call that good enough. All right, so now I've got my heat shrink on both ends of these. Now I'm going to strip these wires off. I'll strip just a little bit more of these because I'm going to put these, for this video purpose, in the Wagyu connectors. I love the little Wagyu connectors. And let's just do a big one right off the bat. I'm going to put this has got 5 ports on it. We won't use them, but okay. So now we've got our load. We've got our ring connectors on there. We've got our heat shrink on there. We've got the length of wire that you need, whatever size you need. So now we're going to hook this up to the fuse block. So on your fuse block, you have got your positive on the bottom here and your negatives on the side here. Most of these fuse blocks are the same. This actually is only a 6-game one. They do have the 12s, which I typically use. So what we're going to do is you're going to take your red wire and with a screwdriver, you're going to connect your wire to the fuse block. I'm just going to screw that in there, making sure that metal is on the metal. Going to get that tight. And now you're going to do the negative one. Put your screw into that little ring connector hole there. And get that over to your negative and screw that one in. And because our Blue Eddy is on and the DC current is on, as soon as I put a fuse in there, it's going to be, it's going to have power. So I'm going to put a fuse in there. And just to test my load, I'm going to go ahead and just put a light on here. Now I will, for video purposes, I'll turn my DC off. I could just pull that fuse. I'm going to hook up my wire and hook up my black wire. We'll turn that DC back on and that light should come back on. That light should come on. Unless, oh, I got to plug my cigarette lighter in. I was like, wait a second. All right. Now I should have power. And there goes my light. Okay, so now we know that our load is good. And I had no doubt. I'm going to go ahead and turn that back off. And so now let's talk about wiring a switch. And I have got this, it's just a toggle switch. And it also has the dimmer, okay? And then I've got this push button toggle switch. Push the button and the light comes on. You can push the button and the light goes off. I like it when I push the button, the light comes on. Then I know that my water pump or my ball valve or whatever this controls is on. So no light, it's off. Light, it's on. Now these come disconnected because you want to drill a hole in your wall and it's got this screw nut on it so that you can secure this to your wall. So we're going to wire that one second. We're going to wire this push button switch first. And they make these switches in other kinds as well. I'm going to strip this sheath off of here. And I'm just taking about a 1/2 inch because I use these little Wagyu connectors. I love these Wagyu connectors. Okay, so now I've got all my lines stripped. When you're wiring puck lights, the black is negative. It's negative on your puck lights, it's negative on your load, it's negative on your switch. That's your ground. So we're going to plug the ground into the ground on our load. This is our load. This is going to give power to our switch. Now we're going to plug the red wire in to the positive wire from the load. So this one is going to go here. And this is going to now give power to this switch. So now we need to get the power from the switch to the lights. So when you're wiring your van, you want to run your load wire from your fuse block all the way over to your switch, wherever that will be. And what I like to do is not have any breaks in the wire behind walls. So when you pull your wires, go straight from the fuse block all the way to your switch. Don't have any splices behind the wall if you can at all prevent it. That way you know you've got a solid connection from your fuse block all the way to your switch. So now we want to get power to the lights from this switch. And that's what this white wire is all about over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the rest of our wire here and we're going to prepare it to wire into our switch. And again, all you have to do is remove a little bit of the sheath. You're going to remove it off of both ends, just like last time. And you are going to wire your puck light on one end and your switch on the other end. So I'm just stripping these off of here, taking that coating off. You're going to be a pro at this by the time you're done. And this one's going to go to the switch. So you're going to share the ground. That's going to go in there. Now, your red wire is going to go to your white wire. And get your little Wagyu connector and connect your white wire in there. And then you're going to connect the wire from your LED into the white. So now you've got all your wires connected going to your switch. The red ones are your load. The white one is what is feeding power to the light, and the black ones are all your ground. So now you're done with the switch part of it. Now we're going to go through your wall up to your ceiling and grab this wire. You're going to take both of the sheaths off, this one, the insulated coating, and you're going to put your Wagyu connectors on here. And now this side is ready for the light. And that's what's going to go in the two empty spots here. So we're going to take one of our lights and we're going to plug it into this end of our line. Black to black, red to red. If your wires have black and white, black goes to red and white goes to black. Okay, so now we'll turn our DC back on. And when we flip this switch, this light should come on after our DC comes on. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so make sure your DC power is on now. Hit your switch, and now we have light. And I'm not sure if this one is dimmable or not. They are. And now dimmable lights to your switch. Now, let's say that you want another light off of this. You want 2 lights. So let's turn our lights off. So now we just took power away from here. Let's make, and I think I've got another wire over here. We're going to take this off of here and put a 3 on here. We got these Wagyu connectors that have 3 on it. You're going to put a 3 on there. There's 2, there's 3, there's 5. I think that's probably it. Okay. Hooking all of our negatives up together here. And okay, so I'm going to grab another wire. So that should be hot again, which it is. Now I've got it off. I'm going to grab this wire. I'm going to cut. And this is going to be our second LED light. I always put 2 of them in these vans side by side. Up the alley, you see that up the hallway. You see that a lot in these van builds. A lot of people will put them 2 by 2 by 2 in their ceilings. So, okay, so let's strip these wires. Okay, now I'm going to put some clips on this end, on one end. This is going to go to the puck lights. Okay, so now we've got our puck light that's going to come to here. This is our second light. Black to black, red to red. And now, if I plug this, we put that 3 connector on here. If I plug this into here, and the red into the red. Okay, so we've got power going from the load to the switch. From the switch, it goes to our first puck light up in the ceiling. And then from there, it feeds another puck light. So when we turn this switch on, both of these should now come on. And both of them will dim as well. So you're just feeding, oh, I hit the switch. You're just feeding one off of the other. So on this one, it has a 2 Wagyu connector. On this one, it has a 3. And if you don't use the Wagyu connectors and you want to use like wire nuts, that's perfectly fine. It works the same. This is just easy to make changes when necessary. It's easy for people to understand, like, and you don't have to worry about because sometimes you put those wire nuts on and you don't get a good connection. So I just love using these. So that's the dimmer switch, light switch. Now we're going to do a toggle switch. And the toggle switch, this has a lot of wires on it. And you can see, I'm going to strip all of them except for the yellow, because I already know by looking at this diagram that if I connect the red and the blue together to the positive on the lights and the black to all the negatives and the green to the load positive, then when I press that button, that light's going to come on. So let me walk you through that. Okay, so the red and the blue are going to go together, and that is going to go to my light. I want that to feed my light. So that's going to be in the positive. I'm actually going to put both these in one. That's going to go to the positive on my lights, okay? And then the negative is going to get, all the negatives are going to get tied together again. All the black ones are going to get tied together. And then the green is the load positive, which is this one right here, the load positive. This one is going, so the black and the green are going to the load. They're going to the block, and the red and the blue are going to the lights. So now when I put my toggle switch into this the proper way, it's got pins in it. They line up. Click that together. Oh, my power's on. Okay. So when I push that, I bump that light. So you know that those are going to come on because they just flashed. So press your button. It's going to hold in, and see now that it's on, it's staying blue and the lights are on. Now, you can use this for lights. I use this for water pumps and ball valves, things that I want to push a button and turn it on. Most of my puck lights, my clients want them to dim. On this kind of switch, these will not dim unless the light itself has that capability. And let me get one and I will show you. These are dimmable lights. So we'll pull one of these out and I will show you that the same process will work. I'm making a mess. All right, so turn your power off to your lights. Oh, I got them off. Good. Now, all I'm going to do is disconnect my puck lights and add these different ones. I should have thought of this before I started, because this could be the way to go. All right, so now we'll go ahead and do both of them so you can see both the lights the same. Red to red, black to black. And okay, so now let's turn our switch back on. Both lights should come on. Now, these are dimmable lights, and they have that capability by just holding this in, and you can see that dim. And then you can turn them back up if you need, just by holding them in. These also, you can click them and turn them off. It didn't kill the power. So say you've got one on one side of the van, one on the other side of the van. Somebody wants their light on and the other person doesn't. These are a real good one to do. Press the button and the light goes off. Now, these are pretty neat too, because they're actually night lights as well. You can hold that in and it goes to blue. Now, the blue is not dimmable. It's either on or off. So, but this is just a different kind of light. So, the exact same wiring, no matter what puck light you use. So that is the push button switch. But I want to show you something. One time I ordered a switch and messed up. I saw this little package on the order thing and I thought, oh, that's it. This switch only works when you're holding it in. So you want to make sure when you're ordering lights that you order the right one. This is latching and this is momentary. So it's only got power when you're holding the button in. I don't even know what you would ever need a momentary switch for, but it was too late. I couldn't return them. And so don't make that mistake. So the push button ones, the switch ones. Now they do make switches that are just little round push button switches. I actually have one in my van. It has got 2 red wires and a black wire. And again, the same concept. The blacks share ground. The middle red one is your load. It goes to your red on the load. And then whatever that switch is controlling will take the second red one. And then again, it shares the ground. And then you'll also see some switches that when you flip it around, there'll be like three metal, like little tabs sticking out. And that's just a different type of connector, same concept. The negative will all be shared. Your middle one is your load, and the third one goes to power your switch. And before we finish, I want to talk to you about those of you that don't want a fuse block. You don't want a fuse block in your van or your setup. You want lights, you want a switch, but you're really not going to have anything else. These are designed for multiple components like fans and lights and water pumps and ball valves. But say you're not going to have all of those things. You can still wire a switch and LEDs just directly to your power bank. And how you do that is you've got your cigarette lighter cord, and it has to be able to reach whatever you're powering. So what you're going to do is just eliminate the fuse block, and this is now going to become the load. So all I have to do is disconnect my load, and let me turn that off first so I'm going to disconnect my new load, and I'm going to get rid of the fuse block. And do I have a wire over here? Yes, I do. I'm going to get rid of that so it's not confusing. So all you've got, and you can get these on Amazon or other places, this, you're going to take it to your switch, and we'll use this one again. You're going to share your ground. Put that in there. Your red is going to go to your load, and this is the load. And now your white is going to go to the load on your lights. Okay, so now you've got your load negative and your load positive to your switch, and then your white one is going to feed the lights. Negative to negative, red to red, and now you've got it. I don't know why that didn't work a second ago. And so now no fuse block, and your only protection on this is the Blue Eddy or the power bank that you're using. So on, off, and that is direct wired. Okay, so now I had someone that reached out and wanted to know, how is it that you wired two switches on the same load? So this is our load, and I'm going to turn it off. And negative, positive, we're going to connect our negatives all together and our positives all together on our switches. So the negative on this switch is going to go to the negative load. The positive on this switch is going to go to the positive load. The positive on this switch is going to go to the positive load. The negative on this switch is going to go to the negative load. And then the white to the switch is going to go to a puck light on the positive side. The negatives are going to share. The negatives are going to share. Then the other light, negatives are going to share, is going to go to the positive on the other puck light, on the other switch. So now you've got two lights and two switches, okay? And I probably have them backwards here. And so when I turn the power on, so now one light should come on with that one, and that is dimmable. And then this one comes on. And The reason why they're not coming on at the same time is because they're only sharing the load. They're not sharing the positives from the switch. So they're sharing a ground, they're sharing a load, but the designated wire, in this case the white one, and in this case the blue and red one, is only controlled by the individual switch that they're on. So that is how you wire two switches from one load. Share the ground, share the hot, and designate the positive from the switch. So that's it. Guys, I hope this was helpful to you. If you're more confused than you were ahead of time, reach out to me. Send me an email at midwestvanbuilders@gmail.com. Take care. We'll see you guys on the next video. Good Lord. That sounds so confusing. Why does that sound so confusing? It's not.